Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivraj Shri Shrimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Paramahamsa Parivraj Ashtotar Shri Shrimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Gangamai ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the summer devotees. All glories to the summer devotees. All glories to the summer devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 15, text number 6. And we'll start from the word for word, call and response. Ye Tva Ananyena Bhavena Bhavayanti Atma Bhavanam Atmane Prota Bhuvanam Param Sat Asat Atmakam Yatvananyena Bhavena Bhavayantyatma Bhavanam Atmani Prota Bhuvanam Parang Sarasaratmakam Yetvananyena Bhavena Bhavayantyatma Bhavanam Atmani Prota Bhuvanam Parang Sarasaratmakam Yetvananyena Bhavena Bhavanyantyatma Bhavanam Atmani Prota Bhuvanam Parang Sarasaratmakam. Bhavena Bhavayantyatma Bhavanam
Atmani Protabhuvanam
Atmani Prota Bhuvanam
Param Sarasad Atmakam
Param Sarasaratmakam
Ye Tvanena Bhavena
Yetvananyena Bhavena
Bhavyant Bhavyante Atma Bhavanyanam
Yavanyantyatma Bhavanam
Atmane Prota Bhuvanam
Atmane Prota Bhuvanam
Param Sarasad Atmakam
Param Sarasaratmakam
Jetat annena bhavena
ये त्वावन्येन भावेन
bhavayante atma bhavanam
भावयन्त्यात्मभावनम्
atmane prato bhavanam
आत्मनि प्रोतभुवनम्
param shat asat atmakam
परं सरसरात्मकम्
जेतन्नेन भावेन
ये त्वानन्येन भावेन
भावयन्ति आत्मभावनम्
भावयन्त्यात्मभावनम्
आत्मनि प्रतभुवनाम्
आत्मनि प्रोतभुवनम्
परं सत् असत् आत्मकम्
परं सद् असद् आत्मकम्
Etadanyena bhavena
त्वानन्येन भावेन
bhavayantyatmana bhavanam
आत्मभावनम्
apane pratabhuvanam
प्रोतभुवनम्
param sarasadatmakam
परं सरसरात्मकम्
Yetvananyena bhavena
तावन्येन भावेन
bhavayantya atma bhavanam
एवन्यत्मभावनम्
atmani prota bhuvanam
आत्मने प्रोतभुवनम्
param shara sharatmakam
परं सरसरात्मकम्
Ye twavina yena bhavina
ये तावन्येन भावेन
bhavayante atma bhavanam
अन्यत्मभावनम्
atmani prota bhuvanam
आत्मनि प्रोतभुवनम्
param sadasa atmakam
परं सरसरात्मकम्
Ye tivanayena bhavina
ये त्वानन्येन भावेन
bhavayate atma bhavanam
भावन्यन्त्यात्मभावनम्
atmani prota bhavanam
मने प्रोतभुवनम्
param sarasaratmakam
परं सरसरात्मकम्
ये त्वा अनन्येन भावेन
ये त्वा अन्यन्न भावेन
भावयन्ति आत्मभावनम्
मन्यन्तात्मभावनम्
आत्मानि प्रोतभुवनम्
मने प्रोतभुवनम्
परं सत् असत् आत्मकम्
परं सरसरात्मकम्
Yetvananyena bhavena
ये त्वानन्येन भावेन
bhavatyantyatma bhavanam
भावन्यन्त्यात्मभावनम्
atmani pratabhuvanam
मने प्रोतभुवनम्
param sadasadatmakam.
सरसरात्मकम् Yeah, those who fall on you, ananyena, without deviation, bhavena, with the devotion, bhavayanti, meditate, atma bhavanam, one, who generates all living entities, atmani, within yourself, prota, linked, bhuvanam, all the planets, param, the supreme, sat, effect, asat, cause, atmakam, generator. Translation. O Lord, all these planets exist within yourself, and all the living entities are generated from you. Therefore, you are the cause of this universe, and anyone who meditates upon you without deviation attains devotional service. Text 7. Sanskrit, we'll say it together, but same melody. Desham supakva yoganam jita shvasendriyatmanam labdhas yushmat prasadanam na kutaschit parabhava. There is no defeat in this material world for persons who control the mind and senses by controlling the breathing process and who are therefore experienced, mature mystics. This is because by such perfection in yoga, they have attained your mercy. Purport. The purpose of yogic performances is explained here. It is said that an experienced mystic attains full control of the senses and the mind by controlling the breathing process. Therefore, controlling the breathing process is not the ultimate aim of yoga. The real purpose of yogic performances is to control the mind and the senses. Anyone who has such control is to be understood to be an experienced, mature, mystic yogi. It is indicated herein that a yogi who has control over the mind and senses has the actual benediction of the Lord, and he has no fear. In other words, one cannot attain the mercy and benediction of the Supreme Lord until one is able to control the mind and the senses. This is actually possible when one fully engages in Krishna consciousness. A person whose senses and mind are always engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord has no possibility of engaging in material activities. The devotees of the Lord are not defeated anywhere in the universe. It is stated, Narayana para sarve. One who is Narayana para, or a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not afraid anywhere, whether he is sent to hell or promoted to heaven. Bhagavatam 6.17.28. Sanskrit. Tesham supakva yoganam jitashva sendriyatmanam labdha yushmat prasadanam na kutaschit parabhava. There is no defeat in this material world for persons who control the mind and senses by controlling the breathing process, and who are therefore experienced, mature mystics. This is because by such perfection in yoga, they have attained your mercy. Thank you so much, devotees, for being here. Hare Krishna, Dattatreya Prabhu, and Sukumar Mataji. So, this verse is a continuation of the praises of the demigods to Lord Brahma. So, this verse and the series of verses are interesting because the demigods are speaking to Brahma from a very high position of learning, and they're saying things which sound very similar to the praises that devotees give to the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Right? It sounds similar. And Prabhupada in the purports is making sure that the distinction is made clear still. That though the demigods are praising Lord Brahma with these very elaborate words, right, which we would ordinarily think are being said about Krishna, they're actually being said by the demigods to Brahma. And as we heard yesterday, that they call him the god of the demigods, Deva Deva. And actually it's interesting because that same name is given to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And But the demigods are using this to call Brahma. So it's not exactly that they're incorrect, but we have to just make sure that we're understanding it clearly through the Bhakti Siddhanta and Bhakti Vedanta, meaning that Bhakti is a word. Bhajate, Prabhupada describes in the Bhagavad Gita, purports that there is a word bhaja. And this word bhaja, it means to worship or render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that same word cannot be applied to any other personality. The word bhaja, bhajan, we say many times you go to an Indian cultural event, and you may find persons you may find an event advertised as bhajan night, or let us do some bhajan, right? But that bhajan, if it's not glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that is not actually bhajan, right? And the same thing can be said for kirtan. That kirtan is meant for Lord Krishna and his devotees. That's why we sing about 6 Goswamis. We glorify them. We glorify, or the acharyas are praying, asking. Narottam Das Thakur is asking that, well, I want the mercy of all these personalities. I want the mercy of Lokanath Goswami, my Guru Maharaj, and so on and so forth. So those are bhajans because they're connected to the pure devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? So it's very interesting that the Srimad Bhagavatam, every single word is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. And when we develop that consciousness, theoretically first, and then in practice, theoretically first, then it's realized by practice. Right? So theory first, we understand, oh, the Lord has described, or it's been described, that this Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And then when we practice acting through the lens of that knowledge, through the filter of that knowledge, though theoretical, then we start to realize it. And therefore, the devotees assemble. They assemble daily wherever they might be or on their phones to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam and participate in the topics of the personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. So in this situation, the demigods are providing praise, very exalted praise to their spiritual master, Lord Brahma, or as described here, not exactly the spiritual master, but they're calling him the Deva Deva, and they're calling him Jagat Data. He's the sustainer of the universe, right? But in this verse, right, we're hearing all these planets exist within yourself. But this is something that sounds similar to the words that Arjuna said about Krishna when Krishna revealed the universal form to Arjuna on the battlefield. So therefore, how valuable it is that we have the Bhaktivedanta purports. How valuable it is that we have Srila Prabhupada's words, just to make sure that though this is the Bhagavatam, and though the demigods are praising Lord Brahma with the words which sound like he's God, Prabhupada always makes sure that we're on the right track. That actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, or ultimately Lord Sri Krishna, is that Supreme Person. So In this purport, or in this verse particularly, we're hearing about the necessity for controlling the mind and the senses. And it's discussed here, the demigods are discussing, and they're telling Lord Brahma that they can do that by the breathing process. Now, generally, this is possible, especially at the time which this was spoken so long ago. This is coming just at the time that Diti has actually had her pregnancy or had her children, right? So this is so many years ago, right? And at that time, we can understand that this practice of controlling the breath was an authorized and valuable means to become an experienced, mature mystic. And Prabhupada in the purport describes how this experienced, mature yogi, mystic yogi, right, is one who has controlled the mind and senses. This is similarly spoken about in the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter. And a process of yoga there is given, which is called, in the 1972, it is called Sankhya Yoga, and it is also referred to as Jnana Yoga or Dhyana Yoga, or this Ashtanga Yoga. So this is a type of a mystic yoga practice which includes yama, niyama, right, pranayama, and so on and so forth. That one must accept certain rules for living a life which leads to yogic perfection. One must accept certain rules which include leaving things behind. And then one must do breathing exercises to steady the mind, focus the mind, then further and further stages of contemplation and meditation, concentration, and so on and so forth, up until the stage of samadhi. In the Bhagavad Gita and in the small essay called The Perfection of Yoga, it's described by Srila Prabhupada based on the authority of Arjuna that such a yogic process in the age of Kali will not lead to spiritual perfection, though there are many benefits to such a process which may support the processes which do lead to yogic perfection in this age. That yogic perfection can be attained simply by the chanting of the holy name. And that is described in a conversation from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the Mayavadi sannyasis. And he is telling them, my guru has told me, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatir Anyuta. That the gati, that goal, that destination, that accomplishment, that perfectional state is only attainable in the age of Kali through the process of Harinam. And it's vibrated 3 times. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama. Eva Kevalam. That means it's the only way. It's especially the only way. Then Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Nastyeva. That means certainly there's no other way. 3 times again. So 3 times positive, extra positive, and then 3 times negative, extra negative. See? Because he's using the word eva. It's eva, means especially or certainly. And then he says, right? Katiranyata. So we can attain that by no other means. Now, The process of this chanting of the holy name is also glorified in the Bhagavatam as the fearless path, which is accepted by all liberated souls. And it's described in so many places that you can attain liberation through this chanting of the Lord's holy names. And in the Bhagavatam, there's so many wonderful stories, not stories, histories, which describe the potency of the holy name in practice, such as the Leela or the pastime of a Jahamil, that Ajamil, he was a learned Brahmana, and at the beginning of his life, he was trained and he received some association from persons who were within the Vedic culture. And in the Vedic culture, there's quite a habit of naming one's children the holy names of God. And at one point, he was bewildered and attracted to a lower status or a lower grade of lifestyle, which included, association with somebody who wasn't on the spiritual path. And it was very intimate, and he became very attached to that person. And there was children from that arrangement. But the child who he was most attached to, he named the child Narayana. And due to that attachment, at the time of his being stalked by the agents of the superintendent of death called the Yamadutas, they were coming to take the Ajamil's subtle body, his mind, his intelligence, his false ego, and ultimately himself within that subtle cage, going to separate him by force from the material shackles and take him to hell. He cried, Narayana! He was asking for his boy. But he asked in such a way that caught the attention of the Lord, and the Vishnu Dutas came to protect that soul, to protect that devotee. So one time, sincerely calling the name of the Lord, even by accident, he was protected. And there was a dispute between the two groups. The Yamadutas, who were trying to take this rascal who had lived a sinful life to hell, and the Vishnudutas, who were saying, this person has glorified the name of the Lord, so he will not be taken by you. So these are the processes here. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada makes a distinction that you can actually control the mind and senses when you are fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, Krishna service, right? Krishna consciousness, it's not a philosophy for armchair speculators or armchair philosophers. At a certain point, the practical activities of devotional service include less physically demanding activities, but we can see in the example of our dear Srila Prabhupada, he was writing a commentary to the Srimad Bhagavatam in the last moments of his life. He was dictating it from his bed. Means that he was engaged in a very large operation to save the world from godlessness while he's bedridden, awaiting the time of departure from this body and from this world. So this is called practical. It's practical. We act for Krishna. we act to bring pleasure to Krishna. He gave us a minute quantity of free will, and we can exercise that free will to bring him pleasure at all times and all places. And that is the goal of this Krishna consciousness movement, is to teach the society at large the techniques by which to always bring pleasure to the Supreme Lord. And it's stated in the Bhagavad Gita so many times in the purports where Prabhupada describes, if you want to go on the fast track, right, in that line, then you immediately start chanting the holy names. Because the holy name is so powerful, so merciful incarnation of the Supreme Lord. By the holy names association, you'll be engaged in devotional service very, very quickly on all aspects of your life. And actually, the meaning of the prayer of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is, "O energy of the Lord, O my dear Lord Krishna, please engage me in your service." Another explanation Prabhupada said once is, my friend, my friend, my friend. We're just calling to Krishna. We want a connection. We want a relationship, right? We want service. So we can systematically and intelligently add Krishna to every aspect of our life, starting from the chanting of the holy name. And that's why the prescription for the masses of people is Hare Krishna, Kirtan, and Prasadam. Some persons, right, are philosophically inclined, but usually they don't start that way. So we give them the holy name, right, and we encourage them to chant. And if they can engage in a practical activity on the spot, such as doing a dance while they chant, right, or shaking a shaker while they chant, or giving some Lakshmi, giving some of their hard-earned money for a book while they hear the devotees chant, right? Or taking prasadam. Was it? Yes. Sounds good. So these activities are practical activities which bring pleasure to Krishna. So though they don't know the philosophy, by the influence of the devotees, they engage in a practical service to Krishna. And Krishna is so kind that he sees that they use their free will properly, and he gives them immense mercy. So such a person who is engaged in getting others to serve Krishna, right? That person is called a devotee. That person is not defeated anywhere in the universe, which is described by Arjuna. Actually, Krishna tells Arjuna, declare it boldly, right? That my devotee never perishes. You want to say? I don't know. So we want to become such a recognized devotee of the Lord, not for any material status, but rather that if the Lord sees me, right, that I am pleasing Him. Or more precisely, if one of the Lord's devotees is pleased by my attempts at service to the Lord, then that's enough for me. And that essence of that prayer is described in the prayer that we say to Srila Prabhupada, which is written by Narottam Das Thakur, one of the most wonderful poets and acharyas. He wrote that Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Jai prasade pure sarva asha. That all desires are fulfilled by attachment for the lotus feet of the spiritual master. That means if we have the one pointed desire to serve the lotus feet of the spiritual master, follow his instructions, bring him pleasure, that we can, right? We can achieve that mercy by which all of our desires are fulfilled. Right? So we have so many varieties of desires, especially in our conditioned state. They're very multifarious, right? Like the waves in the sea. But all these desires can be satisfied simply by gaining attachment to satisfying the desires of a person whose only desire is to serve Krishna. So he becomes the transparent via medium to pleasing Krishna, because his desire is one with the Lord's desire. And by connecting with that person and making my life about satisfying his directives, then I can be sure that I'm pleasing the Lord. And the Lord has many such devotees, right? They come at different times, and they have their disciples who, if they take up the path seriously, they also become completely purified. So we're very lucky that we're part of this tree coming from Lord Brahma, and we hope to take up this process of Harinam Sankirtan very, very seriously and dedicate our whole life to satisfying the desires of the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Would anybody like to say anything now? Mataji? Could you give one mic to Mataji?
Very much. Very nice class. Also in CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, 17.22. Krishna Das Kaviraj has written, Nam Rupe Koli Kale Krishna Avatar. So this Kali Yuga name means Krishna. So by chanting, proper chanting, Shuddha Nam, we can get his mercy. Because Nam and Nami is Abhed, Abhinna, means non-different. Thank you.
Thank you. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Okay. So we'll take prasadam. Oh. Yes. So today's festival begins at 4 p.m. Everyone's invited, and we'd love to see everybody participate from the beginning. And yes, please do come. Hare Krishna.